Hi, my name is Kara, and in 2022, I did a lot of knitting. So the way that I like to keep track of how much I've knit is I have this folder on my phone called 2022, and basically I just like add a photo of a project as I finish it, like once I take like the photo shoot photos of me in it, or just like pictures of it just like lying flat and stuff. And I'll be honest, like in 2022, I wasn't great about like adding all the photos into the folder, especially towards later towards the year when I would finish projects and like not take pictures of them for a while. Like I would kind of forget to add them. Yeah, but this is literally the only way that I've been keeping track of how many projects I've knit, because especially with the move, it's been really hard to keep track of everything, mostly because like I sold a bunch of things, I left some things behind, like I got rid of a bunch of things, and yeah, so this is my only documentation to see how much I've knit this year. And the long story short is that according to this folder, which again, it might not be entirely updated, but I made 148 objects last year. And that doesn't even include like scarves or balaclavas. Like I didn't really include pictures of like smaller accessories unless it was like a pattern. Like I think I might have included some pictures of like, say like my drop in the bucket hat, because I was happy and proud of that design. But yeah, 148 pieces. And in 2021, I made 144. But I think in 2021, I was a little bit more accurate about what I had made. But I just haven't really gone through all my photos and like seen like, oh, is this one been included or not? Yeah, so 148 is what I made last year. And that's a lot. I know that's a lot. That's maybe even too many. I don't really know. But today I'm going to try to go through like each month of 2022 and tell you what my top 2 projects were, and then just like let you guys know what my favorite projects of the year were, because I don't usually do that much like self-reflection or like thinking about like what I've made, but I thought this would be a nice time to kind of go through and like look back at the year, because things that I made in like March feel like I made them 2 years ago, not like 9 months ago. So this will be a nice like my year in knits kind of vibe. You guys have like actually probably seen most of what I made this year. I've done a few like ranking of the things that I've made in 2022 so far. I made that in like July and August and such. Yeah, it's harder now because a lot of the pieces are like scattered to the wind. Like a lot are sold, a lot were left behind, and maybe again quite a few have been forgotten. But these pics are just like what I could find in my phone folder of 2022, so bear with me. And how I'm doing this is I literally just have like a list that I made like earlier this morning of like what were my top 2 picks of that month. And some months are definitely better than others. Like there are some months where I was like, I wasn't like absolutely stunned by what I made that month. Like I love everything I make, otherwise I would probably never finish it. Like you guys know that I'm no stranger to just leaving projects as a whip for like months to forever / never finishing them. So I liked all the projects enough to like finish them. It's just that some months were like better than others. Like I think the hardest month for me to figure out like what my favorite thing to knit was, like because there were so many things that I really liked, was July. But I'm getting ahead of myself by like 6 months, so let's just start with January. My top 2 makes of January were the Surreal sweater. I'm gonna include pictures here. Or maybe I'll just do the entire screen. I'll do the entire screen because that's easier for you guys. So I really like making the Surreal sweater, and I made it in Wool and the Gang, alpakka merino in Sahara dust, and Qing fibre melted baby suri in cuttlefish, and I held that double. And I just love this sweater because like it was such a pretty colorway. The cuttlefish is so pretty. It's like purple with specks of rainbow, and I actually just reordered some so that I can make like more projects in it, because I think I sold that one pretty early on because I was in like a mode of just like purging sweaters because I knew that I would have to move out of the dorms and stuff. But I remember like looking at pictures of it and just being like, dang, like I want to knit with that yarn again. Like I love it so much. And so I also just really like the fit of the Surreal sweater. I was experimenting with that one to do more of a cuff sleeve, because the original Surreal sweater that I made in 2021, so it's not technically in this list, I made it with like really big wide sleeves, and so I was making the alternative of like a cuff sleeve. And I think that this year actually I've become a pretty big fan of like big wide uncuffed sleeves. But for the Surreal sweater in particular, I think I like the cuff sleeves more, just because that way you can get a little bit more contrast yarn in it, so you can get the Sahara dust to contrast with the like melted baby suri. So you get that like plied yarn versus like that fluffy yarn. Yeah. And so my second favorite knit of January was the Fashionably Lace Sweater Lite in alpakka merino again in Eucalyptus green. And here's an example of another pattern that's like, it has the option of being a wide sleeve or a cuff sleeve, but I really liked the wide sleeve on this one. And I made it like particularly long, at least for me, because I originally intended it for my cousin, and by the time I remembered to give it to her, it was like summer, so I ended up just like selling it. But every time I knit with the Fashionably Lace like stitch, I just fall in love. Like I become absolutely obsessed with that stitch, and I knit with it a bunch, and then I kind of burn out on it, and then I don't knit with it for a few months, and then I remember it, and then I make a new piece with that stitch, and I go, wow, where has this stitch been my entire life? And then I do the same thing again, where like I knit too much with it, I get burnt out on it, and then like I put it on hold for a few months. But I really do like this sweater, and honestly, I don't think I gave it the attention that it deserved. Probably because like I was just busy with like school, I guess. I was still in school then, which is like insane to think about right now. Like I was worrying about like assignments and like final projects, and oh my gosh, did I still have my, yeah, I still had my TA job then, which is, that took up so much time. That was like a 40-hour-a-week job on top of being like a grad student, on top of being like almost like a full-time knitter. Yeah, so I think that that sweater was a little bit underrated by myself, and now it gets some of the appreciation that it deserves by me telling you that it was like my second favorite knit of January. Okay, in February, this was a sneaky one that I wasn't actually able to share with you guys at the time because it was like an under wraps collaboration. I really liked doing my Lonely Heart sweater with Wool in the Gang, and I really love the combination of colors that they actually chose out for me. Like I chose out the hot pink and the light pink, and then they chose out the light purple and the navy, and who would have thought? I would never have thought to put those two colors together, but I really loved how it turned out. So my favorite one actually was the purple and navy one versus the pink and pink one. And another underappreciated sweater, but this one was because like I had to keep it a secret because it was originally intended to be a Valentine's Day knit, but then because of like shipping delays and just like having to write the pattern and like making the sweaters and stuff, it actually ended up coming out in like March or something, or May. It was a while before it was actually released, but I made that sweater in February, and it was an idea that I've been playing around with for a really long time. Like, you know, I have my half and half series where it's just like a super chunky knit with like half of one color and half of the other, and I had been mentally playing around with the idea of like doing a heart in the middle with like inverted, I guess. So I was really excited to be able to make that pattern with Wool in the Gang, and then I didn't have to do all the pattern grading myself, which was like my favorite part of that. But yeah, I really enjoyed that sweater, and it was definitely underrated because I could literally tell nobody except for like my roommate who saw me making it what was going on. And my second favorite knit of February was the Heat Waves top, and I really liked the long sleeve version. I ended up making a short sleeve version like literally like same day too, because I got really excited about the Heat Waves top in general. But I think I liked it more in the hot pink. So this is, both of them are made in Loopy Mango Mohair So Soft, but I really liked it. I thought that it was like a super flattering cut, and it was kind of inappropriate for the weather in February, or maybe it was perfect. I would describe it as a top that's really good for like the spring where it's like kind of cold, but starting to warm up enough where like you don't really need to wear a jacket with this top. And I think I like first wore it to San Francisco, and that was not the vibe. Like it was very cold for that, but that's okay. I really like this top, and I think I also just love the bright pink color. And I think that was my first time ever knitting with Mohair So Soft, because I had a few skeins in my stash for a while, but because I always thought of it as that super expensive chunky mohair, I just kept on like not using it. And I am trying to be better about that, where like I will use the yarn in my stash instead of like hoarding it and just like not using it forever, because what's the point of having nice yarn if you're not going to use it? You can always get the same yarn again. Like, yeah, I'm trying to be better about that, and I think I have gotten a lot better about that. But at the time, that was the first time I'd used Loopy Mango Mohair So Soft, and I fell in love, and I love that color, and that's why the Heat Waves top, it was my second favorite knit of February. I think I'm going to switch up how I'm doing this, and I'm going to tell you my second favorite knit first, and then my first favorite, just like to get a little bit more anticipation. But in March, I went to Italy with my parents, and this is specifically like what I feel like was like years ago, but it was actually only like 9 months ago, which is insane to me. But anyways, so both of the knits for March, like my favorite knits, I finished both in Italy, and I like lost my mind both times doing it, because for both of them, I like had both sleeves to do. And what I did was I planned out when I would take photos of the thing. And I'd be like, oh, like this one will be great when we go to the forum, and like, oh, this one will be great when we go to Cinque. So the night before, I would just start knitting the sleeves, and like I would not let myself go to sleep until I'd finished the sleeves. And I was just like knitting on a deadline. I'd give myself like 2 to 3 hours because I was like, it only takes you like an hour or so to knit sleeves. You gotta finish them. And it was awful because I was jet lagged and I was like, I don't like knitting under deadlines. Why am I doing this to myself? Yeah, but March was a great month for me because I actually love both of these, like both of my favorite knits of March, like a lot. Like they're definitely contenders for like my favorite knits of the year overall. And I'll let you guys know what that was too. But anyways, my second favorite knit of March was the Williamsburg Cardigan Lite in alpakka merino, again, in Sahara Dust, because it's just a classic cardigan. Like, who doesn't need a cabled cardigan like this? I made it and I was like, where has this been all my life? And I just ended up wearing it for the rest of the trip because I was like, it goes with every outfit that I packed. Like, it's so cozy, it's so cute. Not to toot my own horn, but like, I really, really loved that cardigan, and it matched all the marble in Italy, or like in the Rome and stuff, like all the ruins, which was really fun. And I was just really proud of it, and the fact that like it was one of the first times that I'd gotten to like finish a knit and then wear it immediately and wear it a bunch. I get to do that a lot more now in New York, but like at the time I was coming like out of like Stanford, which has like beautiful weather, and LA, which also has beautiful weather. So like when I made knits, like even just like bulky or like lighter weight knits, like I couldn't always just like wear it all the time because like the weather was never right. Like it would either be like cold enough or I'd want to wear like a full like jacket, or like too hot for me to wear a sweater. So the Williamsburg Cardigan Lite, perfect. Loved wearing it. But my favorite knit, and this one beat it out, and not by like a lot, but like this one was like easily one of my favorites. Drop It Like It's Hot sweater in Sandnes Garn, borstet alpakka, and light chino green, because I just freaking love the texture of this one, and the fit of it was like perfect. I accidentally made it, I think, slightly too cropped than what I intended, but it ended up working in my favor because I really like that super cropped look with like the big white sleeves. And I had only made the Drop It Like It's Hot before with a like stretchy plied yarn, and so doing the drop stitches, like it came out a lot more like barnacle-y, like it came out a lot tighter, but the borstet alpakka had less stretch. So doing that texture on it, because basically the entire sweater is almost like doing 2x2 ribbing the entire time. And so it came out a lot tighter on yarn that was stretchier. But then with the borstet alpakka, it didn't stretch as much. So then like, it just came a lot more drapey, and I just really like the fit of it. Like the sleeves came out a lot wider, and I'll like show you guys the difference between like the sleeves of the borstet alpakka version versus like the alpakka merino version I had made originally. And I really like the borstet alpakka version. And I've been trying to find time in my life to make one of those again, because talking about this made me think, wow, I really love that sweater and I should definitely make another one, because it was one of the sweaters I just purged and I sold because I just didn't have any room for it in New York. And that's the beauty of being a knitter, is that you might get rid of one sweater, but you can always make it again. It's okay, I'll just order some more yarn from like Norway. It's chill. And yeah, like when I moved to New York, I only allowed myself to bring one sweater, and yeah. Now we're on to April, kind of cold. It was like that nice month where it was kind of cold, still not too hot to wear sweaters. So my second favorite knit of that month was the tongue-tied top that I had made. And I think I made an Ito Yarn Sensei. It was like that really, really pretty mohair, and I held 3 strands of it in like spring green, and I ended up making this like really pretty like blouse type top. And the vision of this like came to me. I remember I was sitting in class, it was spring quarter, and it was like in our design school, and I remember seeing this woman in this blouse, and I was like, wow, I love the fit of that. Can I make a top like that? And I just spent like the rest of class just kind of doodling like different ways that I could try to recreate that cut, and my best rendition of it was the tongue-tied top. So I really loved it. This is another reminder that I want to make another one, and I just have to find the mohair for it, because I really liked it in spring green, but I've been kind of in a mohair mood where I've been knitting a lot in mohair, and I have a ton of knitting for all of at home. So I think I'm gonna go and knit with it, because I haven't really known what to do with it recently. Like I just have a bunch sitting in my stash, and again, my resolution is to just kind of like go through all the yarn that I have. Like, something that was really bad and nice about this trip was that I packed a suitcase full of yarn because I was bringing some of the suitcases back to like from moving, and like my parents had to visit me, so like I just had a bunch of empty suitcases in my apartment in New York, and my apartment in New York is way too small for that. So I brought like a full suitcase of yarn so that I could knit Chris's presents, and I finished most of that. And it ended up not being enough yarn, surprisingly. So I ended up kind of going through the entire stash of yarn that I brought, and that's actually super satisfying. So that's what I'm gonna try to do when I get back to New York. Obviously, it's pretty ambitious because I have a lot of yarn and I like to buy more yarn. So I don't think I'll ever reach the point where I've used all the yarn that I have. I'll just keep on replenishing it, but it's a nice goal to have. Anyways, my number one knit of April was the Stripe Me Down sweater in wool knitting, alpakka merino, and Sahara dust and eucalyptus green. And I think that I just loved this sweater because it was like a really comfy fit, and it was like a big striped sweater, and I just loved the colors of it. I think it immediately became like my most worn knit like ever because like I wore it like every day, and like every time I was just like lounging and I was kind of cold, or if like I was just like walking out somewhere, I was like, oh, like let me just throw this on. And I loved that sweater because I loved like a big boxy striped sweater, and I just loved it. It was, I need to make another one, and the only thing stopping me is that like I honestly just want to make another one in the exact same color combination because I love like a soft beige with like a light green, and I'm literally like making another striped sweater just like that. So I guess I won't make this exact sweater again, but I might. That seems boring to repeat myself. Like, that's the challenge of knitting so much too, is that like I really like things, I've sold a few things, but I don't want to repeat myself either because there's just so many things to knit, and like I don't want to repeat a sweater, but I really did love that sweater, and it was so comfy. Next we have up is May, and this is when things started to get a little bit hotter. So my second favorite make of this month of May, why did I say it that way, was the Let's Groove sweater, and I made this in Qing fibre melted baby suri in the colorway Hero. Absolutely adore that colorway. I love a bright royal blue. It was so fun, and I just like fell in love with the stitch, and I just really wanted to see what a sweater would look like with it, and I loved how it turned out. I think it has a very similar like fit as the Drop It Like It's Hot sweater that I made in borstet alpakka when I was in Italy, where it's like super cropped and like big wide sleeves. And for me, that's a very flattering fit, and I really liked it. And I remember this one I have a very fond memory of because I ended up giving it to my friend for her birthday because it was a really fun day where two of my friends and I just kind of went to the art museum on campus, and we just had like a photo shoot, and I'll try to find pictures of it where like I just had like pictures of everybody like just in various sweaters, because like in the end like I was the one, it was me modeling all three of them, but then like I was like, here, put this on when you're cold. Yeah, so there's a few fun photos of like all of us wearing like different sweaters that I made, and it was just a really fun day. So I think I also just like associate fairly positive memories with that sweater. And I've been meaning to make another Let's Groove sweater, and I just, obviously I haven't found time. It's always like a battle where like I would love to like say knit my own patterns or just like try it out in different yarns and different like shades and stuff, but it's a war between like, oh, like I have all these different ideas for different designs, like what do you have time for? And I tend to go with like ideas for different designs because that's just what I like to do. I think I've been kind of going into more of like a lull where I don't have as many like pressing ideas for designs, so I think maybe I'll start to go through like and start making these things that I've been wanting to make for myself and other people. Yeah. So my favorite knit of May was the flip side top that I made in Trendsetter Yarns Spessotilla and the colorway Celery. And I adore this yarn. It is so freaking cool. It's my favorite cotton yarn. Like, it's just like so textured, and I just love it. And it was in garter stitch. Do you not love garter stitch? I'd had this yarn with me since I think December. I think I bought it in December when I came to LA because I bought it at Knitting Tree in LA, and I just like had been sitting on it for a while because I just didn't know what to do with it because it was almost too much texture to work with, and I at the time was mostly working with stockinette. Like I only had like one design in garter stitch, and I think I now only have like two. I'm trying to fix that, but yeah, I just loved how this one turned out. I finished it and I was like, this is such a cool top. Like, yeah, I need to make another one, and this is something that I would most definitely repeat and make for myself again, even in like the same shade and everything, because it's a top. It took me like 2 to 3 hours to make. Like it takes no time at all to make this. So maybe you'll see that in the summer, because I think when I get back to New York, it's gonna be snowing. So it's gonna be cold. So you won't see that one for a while, but I did really like it. Okay, now we're getting into the summer. And keep in mind that like during the summer, I had graduated. I wasn't about to start my job for a while. Like I was just in LA knitting full time. It was great. I made so many things, and I came out with so many designs then. Like I think I came out with like 12 or 16, 20, I don't know, a lot. Almost too many, but I don't really have any regrets. I think that was really fun. Might have burnt me out a little, but it was a nice experience to just kind of see, like, before I started another like full-time job in tech, like, could I do it as like a full-time designer? And the answer was probably not, because I need different things to do every day. Anyways, my second favorite knit of the month was the bendy cardigan, and I made it in wool in the gang, take care mohair, in hot punk pink. And what made this cardigan for me was the buttons. I have never chosen better buttons before for a make. And I just absolutely adored the buttons that I chose for this one. And honestly, like, this cardigan had been sitting on my needles for months. Like, I think I started in March. I don't really know. But just like finally putting the buttons onto this one, like, life-changing. I fell in love with this cardigan, and it was a cute little top that I made. But I'll be honest, it was because of the buttons. Like, I think I talked about this a little bit a while ago, where like I thought that the hot punk pink would be a little bit more pink toned rather than like darker red almost, because the hot punk pink in Crazy Sexy wool is very different from the hot punk pink in Take Care Mohair. And I'm more partial to like the Crazy Sexy wool version. But the buttons saved this cardigan. I don't have anything else to say about that. Anyways, my favorite make of June was the Drop It Like It's Hot cardigan in Sandnes Garn Coast held double, and I think it was in pistachio. And I think I just also really love the yarn for this one. This one's a really fun combination, because I think I talked about how like the alpakka merino was like very stretchy, so then it became like a ribbing sweater basically, so it's kind of more tight fitting. And the borstet alpakka didn't have as much stretch, so then it became like much looser fitting. And holding coaster and double is the happy medium in between, where it's like kind of stretchy but still like not that stretchy, so that like the draping of the fabric came out in a way that I really, really liked. And I just love the shade of this one. I had all these plans to make like a matching top for this one, and I think that something similar happened where I just got burned out on the stitch, and that's Ollie scratching his little neck. I didn't even notice that he was there until he started scratching himself. Yeah, Lonnie's here too, but she's hiding like over there, I think behind the couch. Anyways, I just really love that cardigan, and yeah, I just love the fit of it. And this seems kind of vain to be talking about all my own designs like this, but like clearly there are some designs that I like more than others, and I'm just not going to say which designs, or I'm just not going to like explicitly say which designs I like less, because there's just some that I've become obsessed with, and there's just others that I don't become obsessed with, which is probably a better way of framing it. But I was definitely obsessed with the Drop It Like It's Hot cardigan, and like the Drop It Like It's Hot stitch, because it feels like fate, because I was going through my grandma's knitting stuff one day, and our like overlap of like knitting wasn't very long. Like my grandma taught me how to knit when I was 8 or 9, and she was super into knitting, but I ended up dropping it after like a year or two, because I was like a kid and I started getting interested in other things. And my grandma died when I was like 14 or so, and I only got back into knitting when I was in the pandemic, so like in 2020. So I'm pretty sad we never got to go like yarn shopping together, but I do get to go through her knitting stuff and like get her knitting needles. And one of my favorite knitting accessories is my row counter, and I have very distinct memories of using that exact same row counter for my grandma and just like helping her like click the button as she finished each row. So like that is like one of the connections that we have, I guess. But what I'm saying is that one day I was going through her knitting stuff, and I found that she had bookmarked and like printed out a picture of the Drop It Like It's Hot stitch. And this is about around the same time that I had been working on the pattern, and I was like, oh my god, it's fate. Like my grandma and I both love this stitch, and yeah, so that's part of the reason why I really love this stitch. Okay, July. And you guys already know that I said that July was probably one of the hardest months for me to like figure out just like 2 of my favorite knits. But I had to structure this video in some way, and I wasn't about to go through all 148 sweaters and cardigans to be like, this one, this one, this one. Like, no, that's too much thinking and work. Like, I didn't want to like have to rank some of them like as my least favorite knit of the entire year, because I just didn't want to do that. There was a lot to go through. Anyways, my second favorite knit of July was the To the Nines dress that I made in crayon yarn. And I just loved the self-stripingness of this one. I made this one so quickly. Like, the original that I had made of the To the Nines dress, I like started at graduation and it took me forever to knit, but then by the end of it, I got so into knitting these dresses that like I finished the To the Nines dress in crayon yarn in like a few days. And then I burnt myself out on it, of course. But that's just kind of what happened with me, I guess. I guess that's just like a vicious cycle. But I really loved how this turned out. I loved all the shades of that particular colorway of crayon. And yeah, I have been meaning to make myself another of the To the Nines dresses in crayon because I think it's really fun with the self-striping. And obviously I just haven't found the time for it. But just know I really love that dress. And I really love like a midi dress. Yeah, like, why was I knitting dresses in July when I was in LA? I don't know. Why didn't I do it when I was in New York where it's colder and we have like a real fall? I don't know, but I just really love that dress and I wish I had it, but I sold it. Anyways, my favorite knit of July is the To Be So Lonely sweater. And I made this one in Hip Knit Shop Fluff yarn in the colorway Baby Blues. And this is the Harry Styles inspired sweater that I made. There's that whole saga of me being obsessed with that particular sweater for like a year or two because it's his Tiny Desk sweater, and my roommate and I used to just watch the Tiny Desk performance from him like over and over, like every day during like lunch. And we just like really liked the vibe of it. And I would just always stare at that sweater and be like, wow, I really love it. So I tried to recreate that like lovely Gucci sweater, and I just omitted the egg on the front, or sorry, the chick on the front, because I didn't really want to do that, and I liked the sweater on its own just to be like textured. And what I'll say about this sweater is that the end product was not perfect. I definitely made mistakes because this stitch is so hard. I definitely made mistakes with it, and I had tried to make that sweater before in the same stitch, and I just like couldn't do it. Like, I kept on making mistakes. I got really frustrated. Like, I think I tried in like February of this year, I guess last year, and I just finished the body, and then I was like, nope, not gonna do this anymore. And I had to buy this very specific yarn and had to import it from Norway and find it and everything, because yeah, it was a whole ordeal. And this sweater is a labor of love, and I think that at that point it was the sweater that I had to concentrate the most for in order to make it. And I just loved how it turned out. I just love the fit of it. I love the color of it. Even though there are some mistakes, and if you like zoom in, you can see them, and like it's obvious to me because I know what it should look like. It might be obvious to you too, but I just love that sweater so much. And it ended up being the only sweater that I kept when I moved to New York because it was a labor of love, and I just love how it turned out. Like, the yarn is so pretty, the texture is so pretty, and I just love the fit of it. Yeah, that was my favorite knit of July. Okay, now we're into August, and my second favorite knit of August was my Better Day sweater in Loopy Mango Mohair So Soft, and I made it in My Valentine in pink. It was the hot pink and red combination that I really liked, and like, honestly, I don't think I would have put these two colors together, but I just did because I was like, oh, like I have this like extra like Mohair So Soft, and this is definitely a yarn that I would like to knit with more of, because at this point I think I sensed the end where like I knew that I was going to be moving at the end of the month, and I had to get rid of all my yarn by then or just like knit through it. So I ended up putting these two colors together where I normally wouldn't have, and I really liked how it turned out. And maybe I'm just really partial to like big striped sweaters because yeah, I just loved how it turned out, and it was so soft. And I just love the colors, and I wish I wish I could have kept it, but I really only let myself take one sweater to New York. And I really wish that I could have brought it with me to New York, but I ended up selling it, and I kind of miss it. But I also really like that sweater because at that point, I was absolutely obsessed with like folded over seams and like necklines because I thought they were super flattering. And honestly, I'm kind of back into that obsession right now, so yeah. My favorite knit of August was the Fashionably Lace Cardigan Lite. And I made this one in Wool and the Gang Alpakka Merino in Sahara Dust, and this is a cardigan that like, I just absolutely love the fit of, and also love the buttons, because fortunately for me, those little heart buttons, I had purchased a bunch of them and I decided to put pink ones on, and I loved how it turned out. Like, I just really loved this cardigan. I thought it was super flattering. I thought that it just like looked like it was something like I would see in the store and be like, I absolutely have to have it. And I'm just so proud of myself because I made it. And I ended up giving this cardigan to my mom because I like always wanted the option to like steal it back. Like, she honestly, like, she's worn it a few times in front of me like during this visit, and I go, I have room in my suitcase now. Like, I could just take that right now. But she seems to really enjoy it, and she seems to get a lot of compliments on it, so I guess I'll let her have it. But the Fashionably Lace Cardigan Lite, like, it's something that like I released the sweater version in January, and I've told you that like I absolutely love this stitch so much. So I was always thinking like I should make a cardigan version of it, I should make a cardigan version of it. Kept on thinking that to myself, and I just kind of kept on fighting the idea of doing it because I thought that the stitch would be really difficult to like grade and like split for the different sizes and like the front panels and stuff. And then one day I just decided like, hey, like just try it. You'll figure it out. Like, I think that honestly, like having to grade the To Be So Lonely sweater and like working with that much lace stitching made me feel a lot more comfortable and confident to work with this lace stitch. Because the Fashionably Lace stitch was the first lace stitch I had ever worked with, but the To Be So Lonely was by far the most difficult, and so like having to grade that made me much more comfortable understanding like what all the stitches and like different steps of the stitch did. So like I knew how to like recreate it or like split it up and like divide it and such. But I just love how pretty the stitch turns out, and I am probably gonna make this cardigan again. I definitely will. I definitely did, and I definitely will again. Okay, now we're getting into New York knits. So, September. So, my second favorite knit of September, surprise, surprise, was another Fashionably Lace Cardigan Lite because I had not burnt out on the stitch yet. This cardigan definitely made me burnt out. Like, I haven't knit with the stitch since because I did it too much. But I ended up knitting this entire cardigan in one day, and that was a mistake. I don't know why I did that. You definitely should have taken breaks. Definitely should have worked on other projects, if anything. Like, it's okay to knit like 12 hours in one day. I can do that, but I did not like working on one thing for 12 hours in one day. Yeah, but I made it in Wool and the Gang, Alpakka Merino, and Chestnut Brown. I made it for my cousin, and I've yet to give it to her. Like, I brought it here to LA so that I could give it to her, and I will. But I just really like the stitch, and I just love the fit. And I made it a little bit longer because my cousin's significantly taller than I am. And I think that this one, I think about it favorably because like I challenged myself and I was like, can I knit this cardigan in a day? And I could. Should I have? No. But I did. And now I know I can knit an entire cardigan in one day. And not just like a cardigan on like super bulky yarn, but a cardigan on a bulky weight yarn. I know for sure that I cannot knit a sweater on like Aran weight yarn because that's too small for me. But I can do it on bulky weight yarn. I do not recommend it. That was not a good decision for me. But my favorite knit of September was my Lovesick sweater that I made in Wool and the Gang Feeling Good yarn in Eucalyptus green, and I ended up holding this one double. And this is the first time that I had ever knit with baubles, and I had always thought that they were kind of like too girly for me. I don't think that I don't dress girly, but for some reason I thought that baubles were like too girly for me. But I really loved how this one turned out, and I wore this one a bunch when I first made it. Now I don't know where it is. I think it got swallowed by the pile of sweaters in New York. And I definitely need to do like a purge and sell a bunch of sweaters, but I've just been kind of procrastinating on it. I'll get to it eventually. But I really love the Lovesick sweater, and I am in the middle of making a second one. And I have been in the middle of making a second one for months. I've been procrastinating. I don't know why. But yeah, I'm gonna make it eventually because it is a Christmas/birthday present for my roommate. And her birthday and Christmas have now passed, but I need to finish it. And I will. Now we're in October. I'm losing energy for this, but we're in October, we're almost done. And we're getting into some knits that I really, really liked. So my second favorite knit of October was the grape juice sweater that I made. And when I tell you that this was probably not the most difficult sweater that I've ever made, I think that still goes to the To Be So Lonely sweater, but some of the hardest charts for me to read and like the hardest stitch for me to learn definitely goes to this one. Like, I was knitting like little gauge swatches, and I literally had to like pause everything and only play music to focus on it. And it took me like an hour to knit like a very small gauge swatch just to like figure out what was going on. Now I can do that stitch, I think, without even looking at the charts, because like I had to concentrate so hard on it that I ended up memorizing how to do the stitch without even having to follow my own charts and stuff. But the first time that I ever made that first like bobble branch and such, like, took all of my concentration. It was like, as a knitter, like I stopped my movie, I think, and I just like played music. Or maybe I didn't, I don't know. It was a lot of concentration. It was definitely one of the hardest stitches that I've ever had to learn. And I still have a lot of learning to do as a knitter, but to date, that is probably the hardest one that I've had to do. So I'm really proud of how it turned out. And as you can see, I got really excited about the stitch because I put it on the front panels, the back panels, and the sleeves, because I thought it was really pretty. Yeah, so really like the grape juice sweater. But my favorite knit of October was my Williamsburg sweater in Cascade Yarns Magnum and Turtle Green, because I just love the color of it. And it had been a while since I had made a Williamsburg sweater. Like, I think before I made that one, it might have been like since December of the year before that I made one. I don't know, but I forgot how much I loved making them, and like just like the process of making them was like so satisfying to me. Like, I had made a few of the light versions for sure, but like I think that I personally prefer the super chunky version of the Williamsburg over the lighter version, because I just really like an oversized big chunky cable sweater, and I love making Williamsburg. It's like I'm going to make another one when I get back to New York now. I am for sure. But anyways, like this one I think is, I also like associate with a time in my life, because I made this sweater like entirely during like orientation meetings when I first started my full-time job. And like it was 2 weeks of orientation meetings, but like the first week for sure, like I made it during that one. And I was just like, I'd been going through these orientation meetings and I was kind of losing my mind, because there's like, it was just so much information and it was all remote. So it was really hard for me. And I was also coming off of like a full summer of like having no job and like just chilling and knitting. So this sweater kept me sane, and I'm really proud of how it turned out, and I really love the fit of it, and I just really, really love that shade of green. I might have to get some more soon, but I really love that sweater, and it was just so cozy. And I did sell it, so that's why I'm making another Williamsburg for myself when I get back to New York, because this one's gonna be for me. I don't think I've ever kept a Williamsburg for myself, and this one will be for me, hopefully. I change my mind all the time. November, okay. So my second favorite knit of that month was the Enoki sweater, and I made it in Brown Sheep Fiber Company, Burley Spun, in the colorway Oatmeal. And I think that I just really love this shade of yarn, because it's like that really soft kind of beige, but it's not really a beige. It's more of like a cream. It's like an oatmeal. It's literally an oatmeal. It's called oatmeal. It looks like oatmeal. It's great. I love it. And this is like another one where like I was just like playing around and being like what would this stitch look like in super chunky yarn? Because you know, with the grape juice sweater, with that stitch, like I had to fight and like, crawl for that stitch. Like it was difficult. And so I was like, what would it look like on super bulky yarn? And so like I made this sweater purely out of curiosity to see what it would look like, and I really liked how it turned out. And this sweater in particular is when I found out that like I can do New York fall, maybe even winter, in a super chunky knit. Because I think one day I just wore like a super chunky, like I just wore the Enoki sweater and like a skirt, and it was like 40, 30 degrees out. My legs were cold for sure because I was wearing a skirt, and it was like a skirt that I would normally wear in the summer. I was dumb. But the top half, very warm. So that's when I was like, ooh, I should definitely make more super chunky knits while I'm in New York, because this weather is finally suitable for it. And I just bought like an oversized like coat for like the outside, I guess, so that like I can continue to wear these super chunky knits, but now I can wear a coat over it too once it starts snowing, because I honestly don't know how super chunky knits will fare in the snow. We'll see. I hope that it works out, but I guess we'll find out. Anyways, but my favorite knit of November was the Spins cardigan, and I made this one in Sandnes Garn Coast, held double. I don't remember the specific colorway, but I'll put it in the description. And yeah, I just really love the fit of this one. I love a colored cardigan, and I think that I was just trying to see like if I could make the fit of my million collar baby cardigan, but seamlessly. And I did. Yeah, and I don't have much to say about this one other than the fact that like when I get back, I definitely have to find buttons for it because I remember distinctly I have not added buttons to it. So technically it's not done, but it's almost done. It's done enough. Like I know I have buttons for it. I just lost my like one needle that would fit through the buttonholes. I'll get it together and I'll finish it soon, but it's almost done. It's basically done. I just have to sew on some buttons, and Lord knows that might be a few more months before I do that. Okay, December. December was kind of dominated, at least towards the end, by all the knits that I had to make for Christmas presents. So my second favorite knit of the month was my Better Day sweater, and it was made in Hip Knit Shop fluff yarn, held double in Be Bold Blue, and Latte Lover, and I just love the color combination. And I made this one for my brother's fiance, my future sister-in-law, and I was so tempted to keep it because I was like, wow, I really do love a big striped sweater. And the way that I like kept myself from keeping it was just being like, you have literally nothing else to give it for Christmas. You waited until the week before Christmas to make everybody's Christmas present. You have to do this. You have no other yarn. And so I am gonna give it up. Like I'm gonna give it to her when I go back to New York because I ended up making a second Better Day sweater with like a light green and like that same cream colored yarn. And I actually don't consider this one, that one would probably beat out this particular color combination of the blue and the cream, but I actually didn't finish it yet because I ran out of yarn. I didn't bring enough yarn to make a second Better Day sweater to LA, but I'm close. I'm on the second sleeve. But technically that will be a make for 2023 when I get back. Yeah, like I think that the fact that there's 3 of the 24 knits of this year that I've talked about, or sorry, 23, 3 of them have been big striped sweaters, and maybe I just love a big striped sweater. So my favorite knit of December was my Something Good sweater though, and I made this one in Sandnes Garn Coast Yarn in green, light pistachio green, no, light olive green, and I held this one double as well. And I just love this sweater. I just wear it all the time. I think it's so cozy. Like the big high neck is just so comfortable and warm, and the sleeves are big and wide, and I think I just love the colorway of it too. And honestly, like I would make a bunch of these because like I'm just obsessed with this pattern right now. I've made like 3 in the past like month, but my favorite by far has been the green version of it because I think I'm just really partial to this green, and I think it just like looks really good with my hair, and I just think it's a really pretty shade of green because green is my favorite color. Specifically chartreuse is my favorite color, but I kind of go through like cycles of like what like shade of green I'm obsessed with. And I think over the summer and like May and such, like I was obsessed with spring green, but now I'm obsessed with, I guess, this light olive green where it's like, I wouldn't even describe it as olive, it's like a slightly cool tone but muted green. And I'm obsessed with it. I just realized that I might actually want to switch out one of my favorite knits of April, and it's because I just thought of one, and it's my like freestyled like top down sweater that I guess it's kind of similar to the Better Day sweater before I actually made the Better Day sweater pattern. And it's this sweater that I made in like chartreuse yarn and like bright blue yarn. So I made it in Malabrigo Borstet in Matisse Blue, and this slubby yarn from 1AZ Colorworks. Absolutely loved it. And I don't remember why I didn't include it in the April list. I think I just, my eyes skipped over it when I was going through the folder. The way that I went about like choosing these rankings and stuff was, I was just going through my phone. So it wasn't very thorough. So I just remember that I really like this sweater, and so I'm actually going to replace the tongue-tied top with this one because I really like it. And here again is an example of me loving a big striped sweater. And I really loved this sweater. I thought it was so cool. Like I think I basically knit this one entirely in one sitting because I got really excited about it. And I had been sitting on this yarn for a while. Like the slub yarn, I thought it was really cool, but I didn't really know what to do with it because it came in like an odd amount. like it's supposed to be more of an accent yarn, and it definitely, I didn't have enough for it to be its own sweater. And so I kind of compromised that by making it a striped sweater and using like 2 types of yarn in order to like finish it. And I just really loved how it came out, and I was so freaking excited when I finished it. And this is something that I honestly might make again, and I honestly might just make it again with like both Malabrigo Rastas, because I don't think I have any of that slubby yarn, although it was a really cool texture. I don't know, I have to do some debating. It's honestly, the slubby yarn is very similar to the Trendsetter yarn Spessotilla, and that it is really slubby too. But yeah, I'm going to replace that one as my, I guess, my second favorite knit of the month of April. So now I'm going to go through those 24, I guess kind of 25, really officially 24 pieces, and I'm going to tell you my favorite 3 of those ones. And so third is the Drop It Like It's Hot in Borstet Alpaca. Love that one. Talking about it now makes me want to go get that yarn and make one. I can't, because that yarn I cannot find in the US, or I guess Mother Knitter sells it, but it's in like New York. I do not have access to that yarn right now. I wish I did. But that's my third favorite knit of the year. My second is my Williamsburg in Cascade Yarns Magnum in the turtle green, because it's just so cozy, and I really do love it. I don't need to go through like why I love these sweaters. I've already done that. I'm just gonna tell you what the rankings are. But my favorite knit of the year was the To Be So Lonely sweater. And again, that sweater was just a labor of love. And it is literally the only sweater that I brought with me to New York because I loved it so much. But yeah, those were my favorite knits of the year. Like, I loved the To Be So Lonely so much that I ended up actually, like, I started another To Be So Lonely in my leftover, like, kind of green fluffy yarn. And this one's also a labor of love. Like, I have to really concentrate when doing this stitch, and I just know that it'll be worth it because I love that sweater, and I want at least 2 because it was my favorite knit of 2022. And hopefully this one will be the favorite knit of 2023. I don't think it will necessarily, but might be a favorite knit of January for sure. Now let me tell you about my favorite patterns of the year, because I made a lot of patterns. I don't even know how many. Let's say 50. That seems like too many, but it might be true. I don't even know. But my favorite patterns of the year, my third favorite was the Williamsburg sweater, because again, I just kind of rediscovered it and I just started knitting it again, and I'm obsessed. That's all I have to say about that. Like, it's so fun to knit Williamsburg sweaters, and I think that they come out as really good gifts for people because it's like a hand knit sweater, and it looks like it's hand knit because you can't really find a super chunky knit like that with like the quality of materials and stuff. Like, it looks like a hand knit sweater, but it's definitely a sweater that like people would wear. It's a gift that you can give people, I think, that looks like you made it for them, and it's like a labor of love, and you can make like it in super cool yarn. My second favorite was the Something Good sweater, and again, I've made like 3 or 4 of these in the past like month. Definitely like 3 of them in the past month. There's one that I have to add sleeves to, and it's just waiting for me in New York, but I'm planning to make another one soon. So I'm just obsessed with this sweater, and I think it's because like they're just so cozy in the winter, because the high neck and like the slightly longer body, for me at least, it's still cropped, but it's less cropped than other sweaters that I've made, so it's super cozy. But my favorite pattern of the year is the Fashionably Lace Cardigan Lite, because I mean, the 2 that I made ended up on the list of my favorite makes this year. Like, I just think that they're so pretty, and I think I just love that stitch so much. Yeah. I think I should use like Ravelry more to keep track of like all the projects that I make, but like there's kind of like so much like logging that I'd have to do now to like make sure that it'd be accurate and up to date with everything that I've made so far, that I'm kind of like, it can wait. Like, I don't need to do it now. Like, how do you guys keep track of all the knits that you've made in 2022 or like in the year? Is it just your camera roll too? Or I guess like you could just look through your closet and see it. I did move, and I kind of made too many sweaters for me to keep all of them as well. Like, there's only so much room in my teeny tiny little New York apartment where I can keep all these knits. So I have had to get rid of them, and I do need to get rid of some. But thank you so much for watching me throughout this entire year and just sticking with me doing all of this knitting. Hopefully that was a pretty comprehensible video to watch. I have no idea. I feel like I've lost my mind just going through like all these different sweaters and cardigans and pieces. But hopefully there will be a lot more to knit in 2023. I have a lot of ideas, but I also feel like I might want to go through and start knitting some of my old patterns again because, I don't know, like I think it'd be fun and like it's less stress. Like I can just follow my own pattern. I don't have to worry about like, how would I grade this sweater? It's relaxing to knit a pattern instead of having to write a pattern and knit at the same time, you know? Yeah. But thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a lovely rest of your day and happy knitting. See ya. Oh, and one more thing, while I remember, I think I'm just gonna like show you a slideshow of all the makes that I've made this year, in this folder at least. Not everything is documented, like I don't think I included all the pictures of like, again, scarves and balaclavas and like smaller accessories, but this is everything that I could find in my not so thorough search through my camera roll. Like I have 66,000 photos in my camera roll, like it's not always easy. But yeah, here's a slideshow of everything I've made in 2022.
You're chilling.